Greetings, my fellow silent thinkers of the Reeks of Hypocrisy podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangrove of South Florida. And today's date, Sunday, February 18th, 2018. Yep, and just kicking back downtown area near the courthouse doing the show, so you hear background noise from the shop, from the supermarket. They let me stay here for a little bit, so it's not a big issue. But I'll be doing a couple topics. One of them is going to be the row that happened down by the courthouse. And I could say a lot of emotions were there at the time of the horrific event that occurred in Parkland, Florida. Of course, there are multiple claims. Another shooter was involved. So I'm not going to jump the gun, but I always say this, if that's the case, you can see it's possibly to be an Operation Gladio move. Just a claim. I'm not going to jump to too many conclusions. He has so much going on with the cart. But it's all good. Before I pursue, we took an article, News Buds, came out yesterday. And this one's about the DOJ Indictment of Debunked Russian Influence Reeks of Hypocrisy. This came out, written by Kurt Nemo, came out yesterday. And it's for member content only, but I would urge people, be a member. They're fantastic, great merit, and something you can learn from instead of listening to folks that write like try to sell you a cheap-ass product. That's the way I can describe it. So as of recent, on February 16th, the U.S. Justice Department indicted more than a dozen Russian nationals for allegedly interfering in the 2016 presidential campaign. It singled out a Russian company, the Internet Research Agency, also known as Galset, based in St. Petersburg, which is said to be responsible for influence operations on the behalf of the Russian government. Those Israelis will give them a ticker tape parade and a diplomatic immunity trophy. I'll continue on here. The indictment filed in the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia charged the defendants posted derogatory information about a number of candidates that engage in operations to support the presidential campaign of Donald Trump. DOJ claims the activity has stated goal of spreading distrust towards the candidates and the political system in general. Well, they did a great job on their own. I don't know why they're trying to get the Russians involved. Totally ludicrous, I would say, right? According to the indictment, the activity amounts to information warfare against the United States of America, launched on social media primarily on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. By 2016, the size of many internet research agencies, control groups, and social media, primarily Facebook, has grown to hundreds of thousands of online followers. Federal prosecutors said the influence operations began in 2014. They accused Russian trolls of posing as Americans on social media platforms. These groups and pages, which addressed divisive U.S. political and social falsely, claim to be controlled by U.S. activists, when in fact they were controlled by defendants. This alleged operation, however, pales in comparison to propaganda efforts initiated by the U.S. government. Programming produced by the Broadcasting Board of Governors, Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and the Middle East Broadcasting Networks is viewed and listened to in more than 100 countries and 61 languages. Propaganda efforts covered a wide variety of political issues, including human rights abuses in Iran, human trafficking in Asia, self-immolation in Tibet, to name but a few. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, was funded by the CIA and received broad policies directives from the CIA and the U.S. Department. And they just really intriguing. It's like a bunch of double standards, I would say. Correct? Absolutely. Anyway, the CIA knows best. Screw the rest, right? In addition to these two long-standing operations, the State Department has formed a number of other propaganda initiatives. The Center for Strategic Counterterrorism Communications, CSCC, was established in 2010, ostensibly to combat Islamic State propaganda. CSCC produces video blogs, tweets, and Facebook posts. It was created under Executive Order 13548, signed by President Obama on September 9, 2011, and controls over 300 Twitter accounts in addition to others operated by the Pentagon and the Department of Homeland Security. The SSC performed more than 50,000 online engagements in 4 languages: Arabic, Urdu, Somali, and English. The outfit was created by the State Department's Global Engagement Center in 2016. It was established by the Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act of H.R. 5181 and was included in the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year of 2017. The Pentagon has consistently manipulated social media for propaganda purposes. Operation Earnest engage in what the DOJ accuses Russia of doing, using sock puppets to spread propaganda on social networking sites based outside the country. The operation is quite sophisticated. CENTCOM creates sock puppets as long as online identity used for purposes of deception, complete with background history, supporting details, and cyber presence. They are technically, culturally, and geographically consistent. The program was initially overseen by USCC Commander David Petraeus and later General James Mattis, the current Secretary of Defense. Yeah, you got a couple of neocons. Soon after 9/11, the State Department created the Shared Values Initiative to persuade international viewers that the U.S. does not persecute Muslims. The program was directed by Charlotte Beers, a former Madison Avenue advertising executive, at a cost of $15 million. It produced many documentaries for television, radio, and print. Government-run television networks in Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan refused to run the ads, and the programs were subsequently deemed by a failure. Charlotte Beers resigned 2 weeks before the invasion of Iraq. She couldn't do for Uncle Sam's but what she did for Uncle Ben's rice, and so, after 17 months on the job, on the eve of the war, the advertising group who became Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy has quit. Reportedly for health reasons, according to Jamie Furlington and Alice Kendrick. Advertising Wars and Terrorism, the story of U.S. State Department's Shared Values Initiative by Marquette Books, the book on that came out in 2006. Let's see what they have here. Zanil, dubbed the Cuban Twitter, was created by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, in 2010. The covertly launched platform was designed to encourage Cuban youth to rebel against the government, thus foment a Cuban Spring. USAID established a number of front companies that came to islands to finance the operation and trick unsuspecting executives into supporting the subversive operation. As the Associated Press wrote a story on the operation, the U.S. admitted it was behind the scheme. It was soon after phased out. However, in 2014, Radio Yay Television RT, a Miami-based propaganda effort financed by the Broadcasting Board of Governors, took up a similar effort called Prime Media. In 2012, the U.S. Border Patrol tried its hand on propaganda. It employed corridors or Mexican ballots as covert propaganda to the blunt flow of illegal immigration into the United States. The operation produced CDs that were marketed in Mexico. Various agencies involved promote the official line that the song are designed to be musical deterrents to prevent deaths at the border, writes Maria Herrera Sobek, professor and associate vice chancellor of diversity, equity, and academic policy at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Herrera Sobek said that the Border Patrol is engaged in deceitful adoption activities with the production, publication, and dissemination of their migrant corridors. During the Cold War, the Eisenhower administration implemented Project Pedro under the United States Information Agency to clandestinely disseminate propaganda in Mexico on the guise of combating communism. Mexican businessmen were paid to act as fronts for U.S.-owned companies that produced newsreels which were popular in Mexican theaters, writes Mike Floorworker. These U.S.-produced newsreels made it into almost 400 theaters and blended pro-U.S. propaganda and advertising for companies like Goodyear and Pepsi with more traditional Mexican newsreel. Fairs, light reports on recent bullfighting and boxing matches. You hear a shocking part go by. The project continued throughout the 1950s, but was terminated in the early 60s as it was expensive and its efficacy had proven impossible to determine. Propaganda is not strictly limited to foreign nations. In 2013, the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 was modernized to allow the dissemination of propaganda programming in the United States. The law initially prohibited government from actively distributing propaganda domestically. What the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, H.R. 5736, which was incorporated in the fiscal year 2013 NDAA National Defense Authorization Act, did was to give government officials, specifically State Department Broadcasting Boards of Governors officials, the power to disseminate these propaganda programs in the United States upon request. Notes the Smith-Mundt Comfort propaganda website. You can see all that if you're a subscriber. Do it. That was supported by Arkansas Senator William Fulbright in the 1970s. He argued the VOA and Radio Free Europe should be given the opportunity to take the rightful place in the graveyard of quote-unquote relics. Spokeswoman Lynn Weir defended the BBG, saying it is not a propaganda outlet on par with Bravada, and the VOA services present fair and accurate news. Our journalists provide what many people cannot get locally uncensored news, responsible discussion, open debate. Prior to the changes to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, the U.S. was accused of broadcasting propaganda through VNRs or video news releases. The segment was sold in packages to television station affiliates and made it to look actual news segments. In 2005, a New York Times exposed on the practice of prompting the Federal Communications Commission for investigation. Press officers for several federal agencies have long maintained that the segments are neutral and factual, amounting to nothing more than video press releases. Questions about the lack of identification as government-produced media have been sidestepped by shifting blame to the station managers for failing to inform viewers as to what they're watching, writes for Walker. Interesting there, right? Like the whole book and dagger thing, manipulate and buy, sell you garbage and all that good stuff, right? And an effort by the Pentagon is even more over the top. The DOD has long endeavored to get retired commanders or close businesses or political ties to over 150 million contractors who spend U.S. military activity overseas. Dubbed the Pentagon Military Arms Program, the effort was tailored to shape a favorable public opinion on legal military campaigns, promote the war on terror, and benefit the military industrial complex. The effort was terminated in April 2008 following New York Times exposed. That's how New York Times is good, right? Pentagon also influences media perceptions of the military. Its entertainment liaison office works hand in hand with the military entertainment industry. In 2015, Spy Culture released a large cache of documents for the Pentagon's propaganda office. The website reported the release. It is the largest and most up-to-date release of documents from the world of entertainment liaison offices. It substantially increased our knowledge of the scale, top of the U.S. military has in popular entertainment, particularly TV shows. The sheer scale of the Army and the Air Force's involvement in the TV shows, particularly reality TV shows, is the most remarkable thing about the Files, X Factor, MasterChef, Cupcake Wars, numerous Oprah Winfrey shows, Ice Road Truckers, Battlefield Police, America's Got Talent, Hawaii 5-0, lots of BBC, History Channel, and National Geographic documentaries, War Dog, Big Kitchen, and the list is almost endless. I think that's why when people watch this stuff, I am not impressed. I find it boring. Exactly. I see some people remember. I mean, oh yeah, it's so exciting. Mom, it's garbage. It's awful, stupid, lousy. I'm not impressed with most of the stuff in the History Channel anyway. I watch Vikings once in a while, but I don't go Bowley and Manifesto. Yeah, I'm real hard to deal. I'm real hard to please, folks. The Department of Justice's indictment of Russian influences operations ignore the fact that the U.S. government is the largest peddler of propaganda in the world. It has done so on a massive scale since the end of the Second World War. You hear a garbage bale coming through here, which is okay. Alright. Like it says here, corporate stenographic media appears to be incapable in grasping the hypocrisy of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rothstein's remark that the indictment alleges that the Russian conspirators want to promote discord in the United States and undermine public confidence in democracy, while the United States has done the same on an unprecedented scale of decades. Exceptionalism at its finest, right? Precisely. The indictment is a desperate attempt to salvage Russiagate fraud cooked up by the Democrats as they lost the election. The large smokescreen, however, will not diminish the fact that the efforts to blame the Russians for the election victory of Donald Trump is without evidence and represents one of the most transparent and outrageous political stunts in American history. And I cannot disagree with that. Okay? And the truth of the matter is, friends, it doesn't matter if you like Trump or not, but if you still believe the Russians are involved, you are being duped. Welcome to the Jim Jones Syndrome. Exceptionalism. The United States can do it, no one else can. We can all hold hands, sing kumbaya, and go, except, you know, we can do it, but we can't. Could claim to be special. Yeah. It really reeks, my friend. And Mueller is like a twit anyway. One of those globalist bend over Bob's New World Order assets. So, while me digressing on this would be a waste of energy. And let's see what Huffington Post has to say. And it looks like it's shared by popularresistance.org. They got their pros and cons, I'll be very frank. Florida high school students staged to walk out to protest gun violence. This is by Ryan Grenoble and Sebastian Murdoch from HuffingtonPost.com. I love the quote, resist with the exclamation mark. So, I'm going to tell you, could we say synthetic movements? But we will continue on here. And of course here, note for this protest, the memorial for the custodians killed, thousands of furious families led by students chanting no more guns, no more guns. At the same event, the Broward County Sheriff told the crowd that politicians will not get reelected unless they take action to control guns. That's Scott Israel, the man who sold his soul to Homeland Security. Federalized sheriffs. Can we say major conflict of interest? Look it up. I don't make this stuff up. And I did address them on a couple of shows a couple days ago. Youth are quickly becoming loudest spokesperson for gun control, speaking out and complaining about the corruption has failed to regulate guns adequately. They assume whether the United States has finally reached a tipping point on gun control, but there are some signs of an aroused citizenry. Sometimes you never let passion supersede logic, and don't get me wrong, I am really damn infuriated because I've been talking about this last couple of days, couple episodes. Well, it says here, now is the exact time to talk about gun control. It says students from a high school near Parkland. They're furious about political stonewalling, and most of them aren't yet old enough to vote. Moment. Alright, so 2 days after the gunman used an assault rifle to kill 17 people at a nearby school, students at South Broward High School protested solidarity just a couple dozen miles down the road in Parkland. Jordy Stoneman Douglas High School was sealed off as investigators poured over the horror side. About teenagers gathered on the street Friday, rallying around the common cause of gun control and school safety. Two issues politicians continue to ignore, even though the polls show most Americans support them. Really. I'll continue on. Teenagers were armed political signs, occasional snack brought from home, chanted slogans, "You're responsible," and "Justice for Douglas," and "Protect the Kids," as cars passed by honking solidarity. Sarah Rodriguez, 16, was among those protesting, holding up a handmade sign that read, "The NRA is a terrorist organization." "I want to end gun violence," Sarah told Huffington Post, adding that she thinks adults and lawmakers have absolutely failed her generation. "We don't pay attention to our voice, and we're really tired of staying silent," she said. "We are the future. We're trying to make it. We can do if they are not listening." Shane Dale said the marching band competes against Stoneman Douglas, and the proximity makes the tragedy all more real. "It doesn't feel like the school anymore," Shane said, reflecting on how the atmosphere changed this week. "Nobody needs an AR-15 for hunting," he added, referencing the shooter's choice of weapon. "We need to get rid of assault weapons overall." I'm gonna just proceed. Gianna Simongo, 17, fought back tears that she described her motivation for protesting. She said she was sick of not feeling safe and having a government that refuses to do anything about it. "We don't deserve this," she said. "We need to be safe. There's nowhere to be safe. We can't even go to school." When asked if she was worried about getting in trouble for leaving class on school day, Laura shrugged. "No," she said. "If I do it, it's worth it." Yeah, a lot of folks out here with signs out here. And so the whole thing is, in this area, hopefully these kids will learn the big picture. And I'm not condemning school safety and all that's important, but the whole habit's been going on now. A generation came from self-reliance to calling underdog to help. I'm talking about the adults as well, the parents in general. In my last couple of episodes, I've been very persistent on the police protection myth, or what's called sovereign immunity tort liability, for the statute 768.28. That public employees are not liable for certain things, including the police, which I'm not knocking them at all. One of these students really need to pay attention to and start doing their homework, study real history. I am infuriated what happened. It wasn't firearm. I did this. It was a deranged individual that's been effing distorted for a long time. And of course, the laws and the books, they became soft targets. It's not being macho man or anything like that. And there's already a law in the book in the state of Florida that was published on June 28, 2013. Campaign Times talked about Florida Governor Rick Scott on Friday signed a bill to close a loophole in firearm sales to some mentally ill people. Controversial measure that has divided gun rights activists. And it tells you all about it, the bill numbers and all that. It's already in the books. Just to make you think about it on a state level, because it didn't really was implemented. And one of the areas you have to look out for, banning, that could really infringe on people's rights of property. Registration of all firearms would be a right to privacy. Everyone starts to talk about basic rights. All your rights are natural born. 23. Of course, the right to keep their arms, maybe regulated by law, Article 1, Section 8. Areas I'm not too crazy about. Of course, 12. Searches and seizures. Okay? They have a warrant, but they're going to be in that as well. And what we need to look out for is 23. right of privacy. Every natural person has the right to be left alone and free from governmental intrusion into the person's private life, except as otherwise provided therein. So, I had to bring that up because in reality, it's none of the government's business. This is why the abortion amendment in 2012 got ejected, because of right of privacy ejected. Regardless of support or not, and I give you my views on it, but I'm just seeing the bigger picture. If you're going to ban these certain assault weapons or AR-15s, you can jeopardize the militias. That's right. Here's the one here about the militia. Article 10, Section 2. A militia shall be composed of able-bodied inhabitants of the state who have declared their intention to become citizens of the United States, and no person, because of religious creed or opinion, shall be exempt from military duty except upon condition provided by law. 2. The organizing, equipping, housing, maintain, discipline of militia, and safekeeping of public arms may be provided for by law. That's B. So, AR-15s, semi-automatic weapons, call them assault weapons. Like, I heard these buzzwords for all these years, and gun violence, another buzzword, right out of Edward Bernays' playbook propaganda. So the folks out there saying you don't need it, we don't need them. You're gonna leave all your security eggs in the hands of the government? That would be the biggest mistake. So when all these young people get ready to vote, you better study the state constitution as well, and the history. What can happen? Not being Rambo, Macho Man, anything like that. But rather, it's always been a dangerous world. So folks better pay attention. I've got a little history lesson here with the UT Tower shootings. It came out, it happened on August 1st, 1966. And it was a gentleman named Charles Whitten. Didn't have a SWAT team at the time. So what they had to do, he actually had one shot. He had shot 43 people, 13 of them who died. But one thing they used, they had to get people, able-bodied men, non-officers and all that, to give these guys a hand. So the 1996 men killing spree. It's something to remember. But one thing for sure, they had to get people, sheriff and all that, had to get people involved. And that's one of the things you gotta really think about in the first line of duty of defense. The first line of defense. So, one of those areas. Of course, the SWAT team got started and all that too. Daryl Gates, right? Or Bill Gates, excuse me, Bill Gates. Or Daryl Gates. Police Chief Daryl Gates. But actually, you had folks that got their firearms, went up to the towers, to try to finish it. Little history lesson, my friends. Because the fact is this: if you leave all your security eggs in the hands of the government and their delegates, you'd be like sweet pie purebred, call for underdog, help me. Always look at the bigger picture. So I'm going to put all that in there, and that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share the social media network. If you have any questions, comments, or you send something interesting, I may want to check out. Whatever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum. Oops, sorry about that. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Breaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, Patreon.club, Patreon.com/lookout3. with a gab, gab.ai. In addition, you can email me at lookandluck3@gmail.com or lookandlucknumbers03@protonmail.com. Alright, friends, once again, thank you for your time. Always remember that the maniac resistance is helpful to the soul. Again, live with humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and the guardian spirits be with you.